Good morning. My name is Dan Dodds. I'm the principal attorney at the Dodds Law Firm in Surprise, Arizona. One of the questions that I'm frequently asked is, will I have to pay child support? And if so, how much? Well, generally speaking, most parents are going to have to deal with child support because when you cut the income in half, but the same amount of children are there to feed and clothe, that doesn't work out. So we'll talk a little bit about how it's calculated, the factors the court would look at, so that ultimately there would be a number at the bottom of the sheet that would determine, well, how much would be paid and who would pay it. I think that it's helpful if you understand there's essentially four factors a court would look at as the framework for calculating child support. They would look at the gross financial resources of the parents. In other words, how much money is coming in every month before taxes are deducted. They would look at the standard of living that the children would have likely enjoyed had the marriage remained intact. They would also look and see if there are special physical or emotional needs those children have to have, one or more, in order to support their needs. And you can typically think about perhaps a child has ADHD severely or has a physical handicap or some other type of mental handicap where treatment and support are going to be required beyond that which would normally be provided for a child that doesn't suffer those handicaps. The other thing they would look at is who's paying to support the medical needs of the children. What am I talking about? I'm talking about medical insurance. And who's paying it and how much is taken into consideration when this number is calculated at the bottom of what I call the child support funnel. So let's look at that child support funnel where all these factors are up here at the top, and at the bottom of the funnel would be the actual number of the amount of child support. So how does that work? Well, as I'd mentioned earlier, they're going to take the gross monthly income of the two parents, and they're going to put that in there. Before taxes, it's the gross monthly income. Then they're going to look, and there's some potential deductions. Well, what are those potential deductions? Well, if the second marriage and one of the spouses had court-ordered child support they were paying on another child from a different marriage, the court would take that into consideration because you don't have access to that money. You have to pay that money to support that other child that wasn't born in the marriage that's being currently addressed. You would look at court orders that perhaps would result in a child support if you adopted a prior child that you never fathered or never gave birth to, but you adopted them, or a court ordered for some specific reason that you must pay child support to take care of that child. They would deduct that. If a child of the marriage, the current marriage, is 12 years or older, they're going to add an additional 10% to the calculation because, quite frankly, the older children eat more, their clothing is more expensive. So they try and adjust that to address that reality. The other thing they would look at is, are there any extraordinary, gifted, or handicapped situations that would make caring for that child more expensive than perhaps a child who was not gifted or not handicapped? Then they would look at the parenting time. And typically the parent who, at least conceptually, has the children the least amount of time is going to pay child support because the other parent has them more and incurs more of those expenses. That isn't always true, but it's certainly one of the factors. I mean, increasingly we're finding that women are making more money than their husbands. And at that point, that tips in favor of the wife having to pay child support, where more historically, in retrospect, men made more money and therefore they paid their ex-wives. But it just all depends on how all these factors are interacting with each other. And out the bottom of this funnel drops a calculated number, and that is the amount of child support based on the percentage of parenting time. An example, if both parents made roughly the same amount of money, the children are as normal can be. They have equal parenting time. There likely would be nobody paying child support because both of them have somewhat equal resources, and the court would take the position likely that, well, when you've got the children, you feed them and clothe them. And ma'am, when you've got the children, you feed them and clothe them. Now, medical expenses, deductibles for treatment that aren't covered by insurance, prescriptions that aren't covered by insurance, typically the parent who obtains it would send a bill when they had to go buy the particular medication. The other parent would have typically 30 days to reimburse the wife who paid for it, in this example, for her cost that she covered that was my cost. So they want there to be equality there, that both parents would be contributing to these excess medical costs that are not covered by your typical plan. Well, I hope this information, at least basic information, is at least helpful to you to begin to understand how much and how long would you have to pay child support and what are the factors that affect that. Have a good day.